Hello again, everyone. Now it's time for the second wind power company or wind developer company here during our Introduce Investor Days. Again, my name is Carl Bokvist, and I will be moderating the presentation from CEO Per here from Eolus Wind. And with that, I leave it over to you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and it's really good to see a block of 3 wind power companies presenting in a row. That's a sign of how the industry really grows. This is an old picture. It's Johan standing on a turbine that we built back in 2014. It's a Vestas turbine. He has his workplace 94 meters above ground level. I'm happy that I have an office to go to instead. But days like this, it looks really beautiful. This turbine has 56-meter long blades, so the diameter of the rotor is 112 meters. That means that the swept path, the circle, is about 1 hectare, so 10,000 square meters. And when I say that this is an old picture, we can compare that to the turbines that we and our colleagues procure and build now. They have like 150-meter rotor diameter. And that means that the swept area is 70-80% higher than compared to this turbine. And of course, that really drives costs down per megawatt hour. And it's really important when you try to understand the growth of the wind industry. So Eolus is a project developer founded back in 1990. 30 years in the business with 45 employees, head office in Hässleholm in Skåne. We have offices in Halmstad and Göteborg as well. We're active in the Nordics, in the Baltics, and also in southwestern US, in California, Arizona, and Nevada. We're developing renewable projects. So far, we have only built wind power, but we can build solar PV projects, and we can build energy storage projects. And I'll come back to that. So far, we've built more than 600 wind turbines, most of them in Sweden. The idea is to develop projects, and when they're fully permitted, to procure turbines, balance of plant, the civil works that is needed, and to sell wind farms or other renewable assets as turnkey assets, and then to operate them on behalf of the investors. When we have a ready-to-build project, we turn to our customers or other potential investors presenting the project, and run a couple of rounds with the negotiations with them. And if we can conclude a deal, then we order turbines and or the civil works and start the construction. I would say that the best business model is where the construction is financed by the investor, since as all energy investments, it is really capital intense. And if the investor finances the construction, they get some return on the capital they have already committed in their funds or whatever it is. they get some return during construction, and we can run several projects in parallel. The other solution, but of course, it's all about the cost of capital. The one that has the lowest cost of capital should do it, and we also can construct and finance ourselves using the credit facilities that we have. And we're listing at the Stockholm Exchange and have about 16,000 shareholders. There is a really fast growth of wind power in Sweden and in the Nordics, and I just listed some of the driving key aspects. You can really build large-scale projects, driving cost per produced megawatt hour down. The Swedish Energy Agreement back in 2016 was really important for investments that really kicked off after that. And since then, more than 80 billion SEK has been invested in Swedish wind power. So an enormous amount. And you see on coming slide what that has led to regarding production. We have a functioning electricity market where we can trade both spot and we can trade futures. It's possible for investors to invest in euro. Electricity prices are traded with euro as currencies, and with as it seems at least, the Swedish krona always losing ground compared to the euro. Of course, it's been very interesting for euro investors to invest in Sweden. We have good wind resources, quite strong grid compared to other markets, and definitely in the long run, Swedish nuclear will need to be phased out for pure commercial reasons, since with wind power and our technologies are cheaper. And we are at the point where we have a phase out of all support regimes, which is really good for the credibility of the market. And we also see an increasing demand from customers that want to supply their business with green electricity. So an increased market for corporate PPAs, and I'll come back to that. This is an important slide with statistics from the Swedish Wind Energy Association. It shows outcome until 2018 and the forecast until 2022. The bottom line is number of turbines installed in Sweden, and the middle line is cumulative capacity in megawatt, and this line is annual production in gigawatt hours. And you see that these lines are diverging, and that means that we will have more megawatts per turbine, and we will have more production per turbine, but also more production per installed megawatt, which shows the big increase in efficiency from modern wind turbines. So we will go related to production. We will double production from 2018 until 2021, more than double, and it will continue for the coming years. And we know that this will happen because investment decisions are already taken, and this is the result of the 80 billion SEK invested in the recent years in the sector. So doubling the production means that we only need 1,000 more turbines compared to that doubling in production, and that's really something to think of. And if we look at the situation for Eolus, so we see the same. So far we've built 1,200 megawatt, and until the end of 2021 we will have reached 1,800 megawatt. So it took 30 years to go from 0 to 1,200 megawatt, and we expect it to take 2 years to go from 1,200 to 1,800. And those are related to projects that are under construction and that we have communicated, so we're quite sure that we will reach that. This is some of the investors and partners that we are working with, and we can see a diversity of investors. But in the recent years, there's a lot of institutional investors, funds, renewable funds, infrastructure funds, pension funds, insurance companies investing. And it's also boosted by the really low interest environment, I would say. But we have, for instance, utilities like EWZ, that is the city of Zurich, their utility, and in Zurich, they had a public voting. How do you want us to supply the city? What kind of electricity do the citizens want? Yes, we want the renewables, we want wind power, was the answer. And so they have a really large commitment to invest in wind power to do that. We have one of our largest investors are MEAG, that is asset manager of Munich Re, one of the world's largest reinsurance companies. And they when they do their analysis of the future, they see that the trend is that the payouts they have to do to their clients, the insurance companies, will very much be related to climate change damages. So that's a good reason to invest a portion of the premiums they receive in renewables. The tech companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, they were quite early in investing in what's called PPAs, that is long-term hedges, where they buy renewable electricity from, for instance, wind power, from a specific facility to supply their mainly their data centers. And also we have here like pure financial investors like Aquila Capital and Kegel, both German asset managers. And we have, and this is important also, the really heavy electricity using industry like Alcoa, that we have done a PPA for our large Øyfjellet project with. And they buy PPAs from wind power just because it is the cheapest source to secure their supply of electricity for long term, 15 year in this case. And that is really interesting and showing how far this industry have advanced when it's where new built wind farms can offer the lowest long-term prices. So some years ago, we started to communicate about our most prioritized project, and we said this is what you can expect Eolus to focus on and what we will deliver until 2021. And we called it the 900 million euro plan because that is the volume, the business volume of these projects. And so far, it started with a cluster in Sundsvall, with the first project, Genosen, that was built, sold, and where we have a PPA with Google. It has been in operation since 2018. Just recently, we have completed also the next two projects in that cluster, Nylandsbergen and Kråktorpet, and sold to Aquila Capital. Nylandsbergen was handed over in August, and Kråktorpet in November. For these two projects, we had some cost overruns related to that the quality of the balance of plant works did not meet the expectations. We have communicated that in our financial reports, and that has affected the margins for those projects. In August, we also handed over this project, Söterfällan in Jönköping, to Kegel. And to Kegel, we are now constructing the project Bäckhammar in Värmland, in Kristinehamn, which will be in operation next summer, autumn, and also the Stigafjellet project in Norway. And both these two projects are financed by the investor when it comes to construction. And then we have our largest project, the Öjfjellet project, with the PPA with Alcoa. There we have signed a conditional sales agreement with Aquila Capital. There are some remaining conditions to fulfill, and that is to sign wind turbine agreement, grid connection agreement, and also to receive the final detailed plan permit needed. We expect to do that quite soon, and we're ready to start construction as soon as we receive it. And in the US, we have our Windwall project, which is a repowering project where we will replace 400 old turbines built in the mid-80s, and we will build 13 new turbines. And the 13 new turbines will produce 3 times more electricity than what the 400 old turbines did. So that really shows the technical development in the business. For the financial investors, they normally don't want to build up operational or technical departments, so they let us handle the operation, both commercially and technical, of the wind farms. So our asset management services will increase fourfold from 2018 until 2021. We have our operational center mainly based in Halmstad. And this is a very good complement to our project development and construction business, because this gives a steady cash flow, almost not any capital employed, and yes, monthly invoices. The Öjfjellet project in Mosjön, it's 100 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. This is the small city. It's 13,000 inhabitants, but they are consuming more than 2.5 terawatt hours of electricity in that city. And that is due to that Alcoa has one of the biggest aluminium melteries in that city. And that was the idea when we came across the project back in 2011. When we looked at it, the wind farm will be constructed up on this mountain. We have it's an old map here. We will focus on the western areas. But here is the fjord, a harbor, and this is almost a vertical wall, but we will have the transport road around the mountain and the access road from the south. But so it looked like a fantasy project from the start. But when we started to investigate it, it really became materialized in a very good way. And with Alcoa in that city, not a single kilowatt hour will go out of the area. So the grid enforcement that has to be done is really, really limited. Yes, and I think I've said everything, most of it at least. And this is the most important project if you want to understand and follow Eolus and what we're doing in the next 2 years. It's a project of about 4.5 billion SEK that we will spend on this. And our investor will spend on the project for just 2 years. And you can follow the project on the project website and on Instagram. And just a few words about the wind wall project. There we have a PPA with Amazon. This is what it looks like with the 400 old turbines. It will definitely look better with only 13 turbines. But the inhabitants, they're really proud of this old wind farm. We haven't announced any investor for the project yet. Of course, we are in the sales process, but we have started construction at our own risk now to make sure that we can start to deliver power to Amazon next summer. Just a few words about the financials. We had a turnover for the year that ended in August 2019 of 2.0 billion SEK, with a net profit of 133 million. It's lower compared to last year. Last year we had a really good project in Georgien with a exceptional margin, I would say. And also these figures have been affected by the cost overruns in the Sundsvall projects. We have in the recent years sold out most of our operating assets, so we have a much lighter balance sheet with much less fixed assets. And every project is for sale each day, I would say, at Eolus. So yes, an equity ratio of 43%, a proposed dividend of 1.5 SEK. And yes, just some highlights from the past year. In addition to what we've said, we received our first environmental permit for a Latvian project with up to 35 turbines, and an increased American project portfolio where we now have 10 to 15 projects in development phase. And just a glance at the project portfolio. This is from our annual report that was published last week. So you can read a little about it in that. And you can see that we have added, in addition to wind, we also have solar PV and battery storage projects in the US.
I think we are unfortunately running out of time.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And for those of you who wish to learn more, feel free to try to grab Per here after the presentation.
Yes.
Otherwise, thank you very much. And next up, we have a wind power operator.
Thanks.